amazing. It's super thrilling. The game is too good. It gives you a real car, F1 car feeling. Yeah, obviously there are like 4 more days, so I'm gonna practice more so I can have the best lap.
My name is Abhijit and my timing is 1:52. This is my first time in simulator where I tried my timing and the experience is very amazing. Tomorrow I'll get into 1:50 for sure.
Guys, I'm from ISN. So this was my first time on the simulator, but I have done go-karting before. But yeah, this was like really fun. I had a good experience.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic.
Bro, it was insane, bro.
Best racing simulator.
Very responsive, completely realistic.
By this move, and he's got a nose to the inside. He brakes later. Very good car placement by Jamie Shorter, mate.
Highlight reel is going to be much bigger than what we saw at Lime Rock Park.
The Indian drivers as well, trying to get himself through on that.
Part in international events such as the Commonwealth Esports Championship, World Esports Championship, Global Esports Games, Simracing World Cup, and the Asian Games. The NESC 2022 for the Simracing World Cup has 2 legs. The offline mode, which has been running at Inox and IISM since the 4th of July. This is the first one. 2 winners from IISM and 1 winner from Inox will get a direct slot into the finals. The second leg, of course, is the online qualifiers, which will have 17 slots up for grabs for the finals. The grand finale will be held tomorrow on the 11th of July in a hybrid mode, where the winners from IISM and Inox shall be competing from Inox Megapolis, and 17 winners will also be competing online. Now, a big shout out to our event partners, IR Esports, Multiplex partner Inox, and the communication partner Artsmith for supporting the cause of growing Indian esports. In this year's NESC events, national teams from Dota 2, League of Legends, FIFA, eFootball, Tekken 7, CSGO, Hearthstone, and Rocket League have been finalized. The Indian contingent selected based on the performances in the NESC 2022 will take part in the Simracing World Cup Continental Finals, the dates for which will be announced soon by the IESF and Monaco Esports Federation, with 1 qualified driver proceeding for the finals at Monaco. IR Esports has created iconic properties in the racing esports space, such as the Indian E-Racing Championship, the Volkswagen Virtual Racing Championship, Mumbai's Fastest Gamer, India's Fastest Gamer, and the Indian Sim Racing League. We curate, plan, and execute custom motorsport-based campaigns via esports across various mediums. So, on that note, let's jump straight into the action for today. We've got a nice quadruple race evening lined up here for you today. 2 sprint races for grid number 3, followed by 2 sprint races for grid number 4 to decide who the finalists will be, who the drivers will be that'll be taking part tomorrow in the grand finale. My name is Saidat Ramesh. I've got Vishal Stephens as my co-commentator today. We've got Firoz and Tanuj taking care of race direction. That's the broadcasting team for you this evening. We're really excited to jump straight into the action. We're just in free practice right now for the first sprint, before the qualifying for the first sprint race for grid number 3. So straight into the conversation, Vishal. We had a brilliant set of races yesterday, a lot of overtaking, quite a lot of driver errors, and a lot of action, especially in the closing stages of the race. Dare I say we're up for some more of this action here today.
Indeed, Saidut, it's a pleasure to be here. And if yesterday was anything to go by, we are in for a treat today with a lot of drivers joining in today. And let's hope we get some good wheel-to-wheel action just like we did yesterday.
Hoping the same. Of course, everyone's just kind of getting up to grips right now with this track. They have been driving this track for quite a while. Everyone who has qualified for this race has surely been practicing putting the laps on the board and just getting familiar with the track. Nonetheless, they're all just getting out on track right now, probably perfecting their setups, and surely rubbering in the track surface. So the way the sim actually works is the more you run on the track before the session, the better rubbered in it's going to be. It simulates what would happen in real life, and I believe that's what the drivers are doing right now. Some of them, of course, testing the limits, as you can see K10 on your screen.
Well, Saidut, practice is for getting your setup right. You can rubber up the track, as you said. And at this point, the track will be quite slippery, quite green, as we say in racing terms. But as we get into qualifying, it's going to become extremely grippy, and these guys are going to really enjoy themselves.
Indeed they are. They seem like some of them are already enjoying themselves out there, some of them trying to push for fast laps. Of course, again, just kind of testing the limits of the track. They've still got 12 minutes just to familiarize themselves, because after that we'll be jumping into a really short 10-minute quali session. 10 minutes is not a lot of time. You've got to get out on track, once again get up to grips, put a banker lap on the board, and then start getting into a rhythm. We've seen this yesterday, we've seen this in both qualifying sessions from yesterday. Drivers tend to get better and better as the qualifying timer runs down, and we're expecting that's going to be the same case today. I see Hari Kripanand on your screen, one of the finalists taking part, one of the drivers taking part in today's semi-final race. He's about 1.9 seconds off the fastest time right now on the leaderboard, as you can see there on the timing widget on your screen. So that's quite a helpful tool if you want to know how much off pace or how much of an advantage they have on their current lap with respect to the fastest lap of the session, which I believe is currently held by Ibrahim. As you can see, he's on top on the leaderboard, but it could just be everyone putting out laps at the moment. We need to wait a few more minutes to see the true pace of these drivers.
Yes, there's no points for in practice session. It's all about fine-tuning your setup. It's getting used to this car, warming up yourself, warming up your simulator, and well, in qualifying is when you start attacking. We are on board with Sagar, and as you can see, it's a lovely track. It's got long straights, it's got tight hairpins, it's a very flowing section of the track. One thing that we noticed yesterday is that if you get offline at any point on this track, you're extremely prone to attacks. Now, drivers that are participating have practiced obviously on this track quite a bit, so we are not expecting them to do it, but when you're wheel to wheel, anything can happen.
Apologies for that. I believe I had a small connectivity problem, but yep, as you say, it's just about perfecting the line, getting sure you're in the rhythm, you understand the technicalities of the track, because there aren't a lot of overtaking spots here. The ones that are there require a lot of precision to get right.
Indeed, Saidut, as we see on board with Ibrahim, and he's about to start a new lap.
Yeah, let's jump right on board with Ibrahim as he flies down the first couple of corners. It's just an easy-going, flowing sequence over here, going through turn number 2, that's Curva Grande, as he heads his way down into turn number 3. He's got a break just around the 100-meter board over here. Hit an essentially a triple apex corner over here, going through Chimney 1 and 2. Those are turns number 4 and 5. Then taking a quick left-hander at turn number 6, relatively flat out over there. Quite a long back straight after that. He's got to get ready to again brake at around between the 100-meter and the lights up ahead. Going through this camber downhill corner, Campagnano, turn number 7. Got to be quite careful on the exit over here. Use the AstroTurf to your advantage. Get a bit of traction from that, little bit of an advantage. Launch off that section, brake into turn number 8, Sorate, very tight corner, 50 degrees on the inside. Again, go wide, hit the AstroTurf and go back downhill to turn number 9 and a slight turn number 10 towards the left. Get ready for another long hairpin, turn number 11, right-hander Semaforo. Once again, get back on power, short burst of speed, and then downshift into around 3rd gear, taking the left-hander of Tonantino, turn number 12. Get back on power once again. Just a couple more corners left here. Go through the SA section, turns number 13 and 14, relatively flat out. Not much to go on, but he pushes it a bit too much on exit as you see him spinning out, just completely toasting up those tires. But he was almost en route to get in a perfect lap in what is quite a technical track around here.
Yes, Saidut, the rear just stepped out on him. He lost the rear and, well, he was facing the wrong way.
There's only one way to go in this track. It's the standard clockwise direction which we're running here today. So he's going to have to turn around, probably get back into the pits, replace those tires and jump back on track. Because, you know, if you have toasted up tires that have been flat spotted essentially, or in this case just overheated, you're not going to have any grip to go on and you're just going to struggle to get back out there and you know, put on fast laps. It's going to take at least another lap to cool down and get back into the right window. As you see on your screen,
Udit said P2 about 2 seconds. Well, this is just practice, so he's probably just warming himself up, but currently he's about 2 seconds off the pace of Ibrahim.
Yeah, he's trying to just get some more laps on the board before the session runs out. Of course, still waiting for perhaps a few more drivers to join. We've got 8 in the lobby right now, potentially more. Remember, they only show up on the leaderboard once they put on a lap time. So there could be a couple more drivers sitting in the pits, but we've got about 8 to 10 drivers lined up to take part in today's race. I'm hoping for a good one, really.
As you can see, Saidut, all the drivers are trying to push their limits. Quite a few finding the gravel trap, quite a few spinning and losing control of the car. Well, all are getting their setups right, getting their pace right, and hopefully we have a great qualifying shootout.
As you see, Divya Parmar making his way through the final corner, getting ready for another lap. Let's see what lap time this driver puts on board. It's crossed the 1 minute 31.1, which is the leader's time. It's 2.525 seconds off the leader's pace. It's a 133.695. Respectable lap time on the leaderboard, putting him in 4th place.
Well, Saidut, I expect these lap times to come crashing down. Yesterday we saw lap times well into 1 minute 31s. So yeah, probably just getting a setup worked out, getting to grips with the track and the car. Yeah, we see Divya Parmar trying to improve his lap time, or getting a little twitchy over there. but he kept it well, nicely in check. Going through the section, a nice fast left-hander as he's coming up. A little bit of a lockup there, nothing too severe, keeping the car in check. Once again, Divya Parmar going through the last corner. He's gonna cross the finish line. Let's see what sort of a time he sets. Oh, he stopped on the side of the track. That perhaps a little bit of a disturbance in the final turn. He wasn't going to improve his lap time, so probably giving up that lap, trying to perfect his setup while sitting in the pits. The next driver that's coming to cross the line looks like Hari Krupanand, and let's see what sort of time he does. He's been 1.3 seconds off the pace. Hari Krupanand goes into P3 with a 132.5, and he's once again, as you can see on your screen, he started a new lap time. Let's see what he does. Just over 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go, and Hari is making his way through the final few turns. And there you can see the final corner, he's approaching it. Looks to be on a fast lap. Let's see what sort of a lap he does. 1 minute 31.1 is the lap to beat, and he does a 133.7. So he's not really improved that much. Hopefully he will. On screen right now we have Udit Sen. He's also on a nice lap time. He's P2 currently, just about 6/10 off Ibrahim, who's put in, let's be honest, a flying lap, a 1 minute 31.1. Let's see, Udit Sen through the first sector is about 2/10 off the lap time he needs to beat Ibrahim, but he can make it up in the remaining part of the lap. We have Udit, he's approaching the start-finish line with just over 45 seconds to go in this practice session. Let's see what sort of a lap time he can do. And Udit does a 132.5, so perhaps backing off a little in this time. And that's it. I guess practice is over. The timer shows 0.00, which means this is going to be the final lap for all these drivers. Let's see if anyone knocks off Ibrahim, the drivers that are still left on track, if they can knock off Ibrahim from the top. But it looks very unlikely happening. Ibrahim has really put in a really fantastic lap. The only driver I see, if Udit Sen is on another lap, he could come close. But it's practice. It's all about getting your setup. It's all about getting warmed up, and qualifying is where it really matters.
Super amazing, it's super thrilling. The game is too good. It gives you a real car, an F1 car feeling.
Yeah, obviously there are like 4 more days, so I'm gonna practice more so I can have the best lap.
My name is Abhijit and my timing is 1:52. This is my first time in simulator where I tried my timing and the experience is very amazing. Tomorrow I'll get into 1 down 50 for sure.
Guys, I'm from ISN. So this was my first time on the simulator, but I've done go-karting before. But yeah, this was like really fun. I had a good experience.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are in qualifying, 9 minutes to go. All drivers on the out lap currently warming up the tires, heating up the brakes, and we are looking good for 9 minutes of action packed, fast flowing lap times. Once again, a big shout out to our event sponsors and partners, IR Esports, Multiplex partner, Inox, and communication partner, Artsmith, for supporting the cause of growing Indian esports. We would also like to thank ESFI for giving these drivers the opportunity to represent their country in the Monaco World Cup. Well, just 8.5 minutes to go. Hari's sort of making space, backing away, letting the drivers in front of him go ahead, creating a gap so he can actually floor it. Let's see if he does a good lap times. A few cars spinning themselves out, probably warming the tires a bit too much, being too aggressive. But let's see what sort of a lap time these guys are able to do. Coming up onto the final corner, he's headed up the final straight now, and he's going to start his flying lap. Riding on board, the first few corners, the first couple of corners they are taken flat out. There's not much the driver needs to do in terms of brakes. Coming up to the double right-handed apex, it's called the Kamini, and let's see what he can do. As you can see, the battle's already heated up. The two cars ahead in qualifying itself, going wheel to wheel. I'm sure if this is the kind of action they are providing in qualifying, we are certainly in for a treat. And one of them spins off. Well, Hari doesn't seem to be phased. He's continuing on his lap. Let's see what sort of a lap time, if he is able to complete his lap time, what sort of a lap time he's able to do. This is probably why Hari was backing off in the first place the previous lap during his out lap, because as you can see, he's caught up to the car ahead. Now he's doing the same pace as the car ahead. He would probably want to go much faster, but since there's no space, he cannot. However, he might get a very good slipstream as he finishes this final turn and heads up to the straight. We are already seeing good lap times on the board with Divya in first position with a 132.7, and Hari crosses the line. He does a 133.0, so about 3/10 off P1 at the moment. But this was just their first laps. Let's see what sort of lap time they can do throughout the session. Udit Sen, another one of the faster drivers. He's about 2/10 off at the moment, but I'm sure he can pick up the pace. He will pick up the pace, I'm sure, during the rest of the lap. He is pushing, I can sense that. And all these drivers are pushing at this moment. Everyone is fighting for their pride, for their glory. Everyone wants to get that pole position, get the best chance they can to win this race. And Ibrahim goes first on the leaderboard with a 131.147. So that's the lap time the rest of the guys have to beat. Let's see, Udit Sen, probably 7/10 off right now, but let's see what sort of a lap time he's doing. He's coming up to the final few corners. Any moment now, he'll be on the straight, and we can see what sort of a time he's setting. Gonna cross the line now, and the time is a 132.2, so 1.1 seconds off the pace. Ibrahim really pulled out the lap time. He's flying out there. We saw him fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying at the moment. Next car to cross the line is Hari. Unfortunately, seems to be way off the pace. Well, the lap time hasn't increased. Oh, and there's a crash. I don't think Hari saw the red car exiting the pit. Red car, I think it must be Udit, who we saw put in that lap time. Well, in qualifying session, drivers colliding with each other, spinning. But yeah, everyone's just trying to maximize the pace they can, and some are just trying a bit too hard, pushing themselves too far. Well, let's see what Sagar can do. And once again, Shiv Sagar is the next car that's going to cross the line. Let's see what sort of a lap time he's doing. And meanwhile, Ibrahim has gone even faster. He's set a 130.9. Shiv Sagar next to cross the line, and he does a 133.6. Well, with just over 3 minutes to go, the leaderboard looks like this. Ibrahim is first, followed by Udit Sen, and in P3 is Divya. Divya, currently on your screens, warming up his tires, preparing for his next flying lap. It'll be fun to ride aboard with him to see what sort of a line he takes, but just follow him on these camera shots. Divya approaching Chimney 1 and Chimney 2. It's a double apex right-hander going through the left-hander, and he's going to approach the corner that's called Campagnano. It's a lovely 180-degree hairpin turn, and that'll lead him onto the straight and towards Sorate. Divya might be affected by traffic. There's a slower car in front, slightly locking up his tires there, but he makes it through Sorate and he's moving forward to the last few sections, last few corners of this lap. About 1 minute to go, just below 2 minutes to go actually. And yeah, Divya has got some unwanted traffic. This is really going to affect his lap time. He's probably going to back off a little, give himself space, and then go for another flying lap.
I think I've managed to solve the issue from my end, technically. Yeah, jump back in last minute, just about a minute left in quali. Let's see what's going on here on screen.
Well, Saidut, you missed a very interesting qualifying session till now. Ibrahim is leading it with a 130.9.
Yeah, good to see that. 130.9 is a big gap though to P2 over there, about 1.2 seconds. So I'm guessing Udit is still on a flying lap over there. Same must be the case with Divya, who's about another 6/10 off Udit's pace. So let's see if anyone else can challenge Ibrahim, who seems to have a solid grasp of this track. We've seen a couple of runaway victories in the past two races from yesterday. We might be seeing that, in the making for this race as well. Just about 30 seconds left in qualifying. Let's see what this last spurt of speed can do for some of these drivers.
Yep, Ibrahim just seems to have found something in his car or in its setup in the track. He's just feels so comfortable. He's doing, like you said, he's 1.2 seconds in front of the rest of the guys. But yeah, I think he's just found something in his car that the others haven't as of yet.
Looks to be the case. Everyone else is just sliding all over the place. We haven't seen such big delta on the previous grids. Of course, P2 through 5 have reasonably close lap times spanned across about 1.5 seconds between Udit and Ketan. Udit and Shantanu. But P6, 7, and 8 are quite a good way off pace, so maybe they're just warming up their tires and anticipating a chaotic start. Perhaps the best place to start on a grid like this is at the back. Just wait for the top front runners to battle it out, potentially take each other out, and maybe you can slip past and get a few more places. Not quite sure what the strategy is for them, but this is what the order is like right now.
Yep, Saidut, it's probably a wise choice. As we have seen yesterday as well, you can come from the back and take a victory.
As you see, a massive spin over there on the last corner by a known player, who, by the way, if I can just open up the screen with the information. Yeah, so a known player is Anish Joshi. So Anish, of course, spinning it on the final corner over there, probably taxing a bit out of that tires, asking a bit too much from the tires, and not really able to solidify anything from that attempt. But That seems to be the end of qualifying. Ibrahim having a solid 1 point, almost about 9/10 of a gap. So that gap has closed a bit. Udit managed to close it, but not quite enough.
Well, Saidot, here's the leaderboard. As you said, Ibrahim has put in a fantastic lap time. He's done a 130.9 and he's quite a bit ahead of Udit, who I think has managed to cut down the lap time. Just about 1.8 seconds now away. P3 is Divya, fourth is Hari, fifth is Shantanu, and all three of them seem to be doing quite similar lap times.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite a tight-knit battle from P2, or rather P3, P4, and P5. So that's definitely a battle to look out for. And we need to also see what Udit can do if he can find some extra pace in the bag and put on a charge on Ibrahim, who's surely going to be running away with his victory if he gets a clean start. So all that due to come just after a short interval. Once we jump back on the starting grid, we'll have a look at all the cars ready to launch.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, a pole sitter in the orange car, Ibrahim Sajid. Uh, he really put in a fantastic lap time and really deserves this pole. But once again, it's a race that could be anyone's. It's all about keeping your car clean, keeping your laps clean, and staying on track and not getting involved in incidents. If these guys start tripping themselves, even the person who's starting at the back currently has a chance of winning this.
We've seen this happen multiple times in yesterday's races. There have been a lot of contacts, especially into turns number 4 and 5. So that's where a lot of this action is going to be taking place once everyone gets a clean launch. We haven't seen anyone mess up the launch or even crash on the main straight. And we hope that's not going to be the case today either. We don't want to see anyone crash out in this race. We want to make sure everybody finishes the race which they start. We just need to wait for the starting sequence to begin, and we'll be all set to start race number 1, the first 15-minute sprint for grid number 3 today.
Just waiting for the lights to come on, and that'll be the start of the race.
There we go. We've got the starting sequence ready. You've got the 6 lights grayed out as they come on one at a time, waiting for all 6 lights to light up, waiting for them all to go off, and we all are under racing conditions right now. Everyone gets a decent launch off the start. We see a purple car over there trying to already make a move. The red car right behind Ibrahim also trying to make a move, just getting into that slipstream. I believe that is Udit Sen. He's got a driver right behind him though. That's the third place driver, and someone goes clean off through the first corner. Who is that? Someone's clean into the wall, completely totaled their car. From 8 drivers, we're down to now 7 drivers in this pack. Hari Kripanand launching onto the back of who is that? Ibrahim. Ibrahim's lost the lead to Udit. Ibrahim, of course, is in that orange car trying to make a move again on the outside for Udit. This is going into this long turn number 7 right now, so you've got to be extremely careful over here. You don't want to run wide, and it looks like Ibrahim's lost a little bit more time sticking on that outside line, and he has Hari Kripanand right behind him for company. A lot has gone on at the start of this race, but who was that who went straight on? I believe that is a known player who went straight on at the first corner.
Indeed, Saidut, it seems to be a known player. I think got ran out a bit wide or just missed his braking zone. But the most interesting to see is that Udit has made up the place, has got into P1. So starting on pole probably didn't work out as well as Ibrahim wanted.
Yeah, it perhaps did not. I mean, he did get a good launch, made it into the first couple of double right-handers, but somehow he lost out just after the middle of that corner. He might have been hung out to dry on the outside with Hari Kripanand also lashing onto that slipstream that Udit created. He just punched a hole through the air, giving way for Hari to also get a good launch, get some good amount of speed. Now he's latched right on behind Ibrahim, who I believe might be losing out to Udit right now. Once the leaderboard, there we go, he's right behind him right now, gaining. Will he make a move on the inside? No. Udit takes the inside line, defends brilliantly. Ibrahim's forced to go on the outside, breaks a bit earlier than Udit. Is he trying to get the switch back? He tries to do that, doesn't work out for him, and these two are now starting to drop the rest of the pack. Ibrahim once again sticking on the outside. He might have to break a bit earlier and take that back. No, he continues powering on the front. Is he going to move over to the left? No, he does not. He continues on his path, once again sticking on the outside. He's just not able to find a way, but he gives a little bit of a tap to Udit as Udit runs wide and completely spins out straight into the barrier. We need to see a replay of that to see exactly what happened there. It almost looked like Ibrahim tapped the rear end of Udit, running him wide on track.
Indeed, Saidut, it did seem to be a slight contact. Unfortunate there for Udit, who's now down into P6. He would have definitely heated up his tires, flat spotted them, and well, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for him to get back up there. But he's got the pace. We know, we have seen through these initial laps, he can battle wheel to wheel. So let's see what he can do throughout this race.
He's already got K10 for company right in front of him. He's latching onto the back of this little pack over here. Surely going to wait until you get onto the next lap to go around. Now he gives a bit of a tap to Ketan. This time again rebounding backwards as he goes off track a bit too deep into that apex, clipping the grass, and he's lost more time to the pack up front. Everything's gone wrong for Udit in this lap, but all's not over yet. He's got about 11.5 minutes of racing still left. That's a good 6 laps of racing still left on the board. He's got a lot of time to make up, but he's got a lot of time left to do it as well.
And meanwhile, Ibrahim is building his gap in the front side with Divya in P2. We didn't really see what has happened to Hari. He was in P2 a few moments back.
True, he was in P2, and I believe he might have run wide somewhere. We saw him get a little tail happy through the hairpin, where the contact happened, just further on behind in the camera. I saw him get a bit tail happy, and I think that might have led to a chain reaction, and he's lost a good chunk of time. Once again, now battling with Ketan, making his way. Ketan's made his way up to P4, so that's been a good run by Ketan, just patiently picking off places, but he has a big gap to the pack up front. That's about 2 seconds up to Shantanu, who's a good 6 seconds behind Divya. So the ones who have really gained in this were obviously the ones who started off at the back, waiting for all the carnage to unfold in front of them, but also your pole sitter Ibrahim, who's pulled away a 5-second gap now to P2, so he's starting to run away with this race.
Meanwhile, Saidut, as you can see, as we predicted, Udit is cutting his way through the pack. He's up to P4 now. So there is a bit of a gap to P3, but if he keeps up the pace, I'm sure he can cut it down.
He certainly can. He's already got his way past the slower cars comparatively in terms of lap times when you look at the quali pace. He has made his way through that slower pack, and he's just got to now start chopping down that gap. That's a good 3 or 4 seconds of lap time which he has to make up on Shantanu. But even if he does that, he's about 17 to 18 seconds behind Ibrahim. Given these two are on the same pace, I highly doubt he's going to be chopping that down purely on the track. He can only hope that Ibrahim runs into some trouble later on in the race, as he still has Hari right behind him over there, giving him some company. He's trying to fight his way through. Not quite working for him. Hari making a move now on the outside, going for the move that Ibrahim made a few laps ago, where he stuck to the outside. Let's see if he makes it work. No, he breaks a lot earlier than Udit. Udit's carrying a bit too much speed on the inside. Somehow manages to stick. That's some excellent car control by Udit up front.
Yeah, indeed, Saidot. Both these drivers being very careful. They know what it is to hit each other and go to the back of the grid. Both of them fighting their way back through the field. But for them, unfortunately, every time they fight, they are losing a bit of time to the front.
Yeah, they've already caught up to Shantanu. It's just a couple of seconds up the road. You can see on your screen over there. Once again, Udit opting to go for a much wider approach for these corners. I believe that's probably losing him some lap time, as he's got Hari once again for company on the inside. Now on the outside, Hari dropping back once again. These two are going to have to work together if they want to catch up with Shantanu and also Divya, and only then can they really start their charge towards the front runner Ibrahim, who's a good 10 seconds clear of the rest of the pack.
Yep, I see this battle going on, Saidot, but they do need to start working. Only then can they really make up the time. Ibrahim is just pulling away. He's got what appears to be a 9-second gap at the moment.
9 seconds and climbing, looks like. Of course, it's dropping a bit now on your screen, but that's just a dynamic delta, and it's dropped quite a lot. I mean, that's a bit unusual how much it's dropped. I don't really see it varying between 5 and 10 seconds. Yes, the gap has dropped a bit. So something's happened to Ibrahim up front, some sort of a spin, and this must be music to Udit's ears if he knows what's happening up front. If you can see his relative, he'd be jumping for joy because he's just got that much less of a gap to have to chop down to catch up to P1. He's still battling it out with Hari, so he's not got a lot of time to just rest and get into a rhythm. He's just got to keep defending and still keep pushing to try to catch up with Shantanu up ahead. They're much closer this time around. Maybe we're going to see an overtaking move down the main straight.
Yep, I really expected Hari to make this. Oh, and there we see Udit has gone wide. Hari is up into P4.
He turned the steering and the car continued to turn as he got on the AstroTurf. Not always the grippiest section of the track, really depends on the angle at which you hit it. In this case, however, it looked like he just carried a bit too much speed, a bit too much torque from the rear end of that car, and the traction just got him off at the exit. Unfortunately, that's taken away all of the effort which he's built and worked for in the past 2 laps, and he's now back to square one, if not actually worse. He's about 30-35 seconds away from the leader right now, so he's lost a good 15 seconds from that entire fiasco.
Well, Shantanu was getting a bit comfortable in P3, seeing these two guys battle and lose time, but he's going to have to start watching his mirrors because Hari is closing. You can see that gap come down.
Yeah, Shantanu's had a very clean, consistent race up till now. And you can see it's paying off. He's at least held P3 up till now. And he's got a good chunk of a gap until P5. So if he maintains this race pace and he just sticks to his own rhythm, he could be seeing a podium in this race. And that's a good haul of points as well. Everything tallying towards the total, which could potentially get you into the grand finale set to happen tomorrow. This is race number 1 from grid number 3. We've got one more sprint race for these guys, after which we have the grid number 4 sprint races coming up later on in the same stream.
Yep, can't wait for those races, but right now we have a race on our hands. Hari is closing. You can see that gap come down. I'm sure he's going to really close up by the time the main straight comes, and we'll have a really good slipstream battle.
as the battle continues to rage here at the back. It seems to be a lonely race for your current front runner Ibrahim, way out in front, the gap increasing by another roughly 3 seconds since the previous time we saw him. And there's about 5 minutes left. He's got just a little bit of time left on the clock. He's got to run that down, keep his race as clean as he can, and potentially get victory for race number 1 here for his grid.
Well, he is lonely at the front, but I'm sure he's not complaining. Just keeping it clean, keeping it tidy, managing his tires, managing his race pace, and really just extending that lead at this moment.
He doesn't really need to extend his lead, but he opts to do so simply because it's working in his favor. Everything going quite well for him, and I hope we don't pull any string or any sort of a commentator's curse here, because he's had a good race till now, albeit that little messy situation there which he had with Udit at the beginning of the race, something which might have to actually be looked into, because it did cost Udit quite a few positions and a huge chunk of time. Now the real question is, did Ibrahim hit him in the back, or was it Udit who went wide and then came back on track? That's something we need to check.
Yep, that's one for the stewards too. But meanwhile, if you have noticed, Udit is up to P4, so something's happened to Hari. Hari has lost a place in all of this.
Absolute shambles it's become for Hari's race. Had a very good start. He's been having a good race pace for most of this race. He's been latching on to Shantanu for the better half of this race, and it looks like he has completely dropped way behind. It's about 5 seconds behind Udit, who spun several laps ago. So that's a big loss of time for Hari. Even if he finishes the race over here, he will be on the second row of the grid for the next race. Remember, the next race is a reverse grid for the top 8. In this case, only 8 drivers are on the grid, so it's going to be a complete flip of what you see on your screen right now. So Hari still has a lot of opportunities for the second race, but I don't quite see him giving up right now. If he sticks with his current pace, he could potentially catch up with Udit. So, there's a lot to play out for. It's just 3 minutes left, but 3 minutes can be an eternity, especially when you're trying to fend off a fast driver charging from behind.
We keep saying this, Saidut, anything can happen in sim racing. So 3 minutes is a lot of time. And he is a racing driver. He's not going to just give up on this race. He's going to try and catch up and close up to Udit as soon as he can.
Slowly chopping away that gap, chopping away at the gap rather. One driver who has really shown, I believe, in this entire race is, there are 2 drivers here. Firstly, Shantanu, who's been holding his ground since the beginning, and he's still holding on to P3. He's got Udit for company. Udit's charging up from the road right behind him. You can see on your screen. So he's got Udit, who he'll have to probably defend from in the last 2 laps of the race. But he's been having a pretty clean race. That's what pays off. We've seen it in multiple forms of motorsport. In fact, we saw it in some of the more popular forms of motorsport. One race which happened today, teams that have kept it really consistent have managed to really get a huge points haul at the end of the race. So that's something Shantanu's got in the bag. If not P3, at least P4 looking at this pace. Divya is another driver up in P2, took advantage of the situation in the beginning of the race and has just pulled away. Lonely race nonetheless, but it's been quite a good one for him, looking at the amount of points he'll be grabbing at the end of this.
Yep, I'm sure he's not going to be one of the complaint boxes after this race. But, there's a car that's gone wide. I think that's just a known player getting out of the way. Unfortunately, being lapped. We didn't really see what happened to him on the first lap. Well, he went a bit wide, and that's really cost him.
And I see on the leaderboard, Udit has completely disappeared from it. So it looks like an unfortunate DNF for Udit. I believe that might have been a connection issue, looking at the way he just disappeared from the leaderboard. So that is Udit out of the race. Unfortunately, having had a good start, had a few silly moments on track. Some of them potentially not his own fault, as we have to review later, but it was just a very unfortunate sequence of events for Udit's race, ending in a DNF. That's good news for Shantanu, who has a bit more breathing space right now to stick and hold on to P3 to finish off on the podium. 50 seconds left on the clock. It's surely going to be the last lap of the race.
Definitely, Saidut, the final lap all these drivers are on. Really unfortunate for Udit. He's having a race he would like to forget. But half a minute to go. We are on board with Ibrahim, your current race leader. Let's see what I don't really expect him to fall back unless he does something really silly. But let's ride on board with him and see what sort of lines he's able to take. Why is he so fast?
A bit of an oversteering moment over there, potentially pinning it in the wall, but he caught it at the last second, found a bit of grip, just got the slip angle of the tires just about right to regain some grip. He's making his way through to the final sequence of corners, just got a couple of hairpins and the S's remaining going through this corner. I believe it's Semaforo getting through into Torrentino, left-hander, very tight sequence here once again. Yeah, he's hitting an early apex, he's maximizing his exit, and even with the sort of precision that he has, he's still having a bit of oversteer up front. So it definitely shows you that these F4 cars are quite difficult to control. They're slippery little pieces of machinery, but if you get them right, they can really fly on tight, twisty, technical tracks like this. At the end of this tight, twisty, technical, and also carnage-filled race, Ibrahim crosses the line to take victory for race number 1, the first of 2 sprints for his grid. The second sprint coming shortly. We're probably going to start a couple of minutes after the end of this one. Divya holding on to a solid second place finish, about 7 to 10 seconds down the road. Then you've got Shantanu, who got a good start, held his position, and he will be happy, delighted to take away P3 from this race. Hari Kripanand, who had a decent start as well, had a few incidents later on in the race, unfortunately having to settle for P4.
Well, Saidut, as we keep saying, first to finish first you must finish. And these guys definitely took advantage of the mishaps happening around them. And, well, that's your top 4.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting race. Ketan and DKW7 wrapping up the finishing order. I believe a known player has also disappeared from this grid, has also DNF, looks like. So if Udit and a known player rejoin, they will not be starting at the front of the pack since they did not finish this race. They will not get the benefit of having that reverse grid slot. They will have to start at the back of the race if they can rejoin the server in time.
Yup, a very interesting race. Unfortunately for them, they had probably network issues or some other technical error, and they've had to disconnect. Let's hope we get them back for the second race because they do have the pace. They could make their way from the back.
Potentially, we've seen a lot of well, I don't want to keep saying carnage, but that seems to be the word that describes the sort of chaos, the sort of pinball games going on in the race, especially at the start of the race. But I think if you can endure all the hazards on the track at the start of the race, you can definitely get a good finish. We've seen this being done by different drivers. Yesterday we had Davlish and Sai Prithvi starting from the back of the field at the beginning of race number 1. They managed to fight their way through all of that. All of the spinning cars at the beginning of the race, and I think this is something that some of these drivers, especially the leaders, are very proficient at doing. All that is yet to come after this short interval.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic.
Bro, it was insane, bro.
Best racing simulator.
He's a sponsor. Completely realistic.
By this move, and he's got some nose to the inside. He brakes later. Very good car placement by Jamie Shorter, mate.
Highlight reel is going to be much bigger than what we saw at Lime Rock Park.
The Indian drivers as well, trying to get himself through on that.
did, and they look at what that did for them. They had a really good race. So all of that is yet to play out. I'm really excited for this one. Let's see where I believe Udit is back on the grid. Isn't that was Udit? Which color car was Udit in? I believe he's there at the back.
I believe Udit was in the red car.
Yep.
Let's see. As we run through the grid, let's see if he has rejoined us, because that'll also be interesting. Two fast cars starting at the rear, trying to take advantage of people who crash in front of them, or just make their way through the pack.
Basically, and it's gonna be all eyes are gonna be on that driver right there at the tail end of the grid, Ibrahim. He's gonna have the pace for sure, but he's gonna have to work for it, because the drivers up ahead, as we see, are also really fast. Honestly, anyone can win this race, Vishal. I won't discount a single driver on this grid. I'm really excited for the second race of this grid.
Yep, you can't discount anyone. I mean, track position is something you always want, and as you can see, these drivers are in front of Ibrahim. They do have track position. They will make it as tough as they can for him to pass.
It's also a lot to do with timing. You know, when the lights go out, make sure you drop the clutch. Of course, these clutches, you can just drop them quite aggressively, but you need to make sure you don't get too much wheel spin, because that's going to cost you a lot of lap time. You don't want to rotate your tires unnecessarily. You want to maintain that static friction just so that you get the best launch. As we get ready for all these drivers to launch off for the second race in their grid slot, waiting for the sequence to begin. There we go. It's lighting up once again as we wait for them to go out. Everyone's revving their engines. It's a good launch for the front runners. Pretty good launch for Ibrahim as well, already making up one place, daring to make another one before the first corner. There you go, he's up to 5th already as he charges through the pack. Up front, there's contact between Hari Kripanand and another orange car over there. Everyone going through. Hari completely spinning it out, having had a good race the previous race and also spinning it out over there. He spun it out in the beginning here. Ibrahim is involved in contact. I believe that is that the blue car of Ketan? Yes, it is. Both of them involved in a bit of argy-bargy over there. But Divya has managed to stick it in the front of the pack. He finished P2 in the previous race. Now he has a shot for the victory. He holds it on the inside. Who's the driver on the outside? That is the orange car of... Let's just wait for it. There we go. DK007. Very surprising. Really good start for DK007 getting up in P2. There's another driver who has a shot now to battle it out for P1. And then you've got the pink car of Shantanu right behind. And DK pushes it a bit too much. Gets a bit too greedy on exit and completely throws away P2.
Well, Saidut, that was an interesting opening lap. And the biggest winner, as you can see, is Divya. He's got it into P1. He's got the first position. Shantanu also another one of the winners, finished P3 last race, already up to P2. And well, Hari just sort of is having a day he wants to forget. He was spinning in the first race and now once again. But we have Ibrahim and Hari back in P4 and P5. Let's see what's up.
So next time by, when they cross the line, we will see the delta, the time difference between these drivers, and then we'll get an idea of how far back Ibrahim is from P1. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, all viewers watching, it all depends on your points total at the end of your grid slot. So the points you gain from the first and second sprint race will be totaled, and then the final leaderboard for your specific grid will be will come out. That's what's going to determine whether you have a spot in the finale. He's already got 25 points in the pack. Ibrahim has. He's just got to get a few more points to get a sure shot mathematically proven slot in the finals, if anything. So he's just got to calculate this. Doesn't want to take too many risks. He can potentially win this, Vishal. I mean, he's not too far back. We know his pace. He finished about 20 seconds ahead in the previous race. He's got the potential, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got the potential. He's got the confidence. Might have not been his mistake going off track over there, but as you can see, he's now started to battle with P3. That's K10, and yeah, let's just enjoy this battle.
I don't think Ketan enjoyed that too much, having conceded the place even before hitting the apex, and he's already dropping back a little bit. Perhaps he just let Ibrahim through, looking at that pace difference, but he's not completely letting him by. He's still maintaining pace. Remember, he's got Hari behind him. He doesn't want to slow down too much, or he'll come into the clutches of Hari Kripanand, who's surely looking to charge his way through this pack as well, having spun himself out in the first corner.
Yep, Hari, another one of the faster drivers, but had a spin in the first turn. Yeah, making his way through the final turn. He is trying to catch up to Ketan. He is trying to probably he still has his sights on a podium finish.
As he ride on board with, I believe this is Hari Kripanan in the purple car, just chasing down Ketan up front. He can see Ibrahim already running away up there in front, a couple of seconds ahead of the driver right in front of him, and he's already gaining quite a bit on Ketan. He's going to get a good launch off this corner, already within slipstream range, about 1 second, and closing. He's going to get that slipstream, but I don't think he's going to be risky. He's going to be taking any risks and dive bombing it over here. He just waits for Ketan to outbreak himself. Ketan holding on pretty well. Some interesting lines being taken over. Then there's some wheel banging. No one spun out, but that's Kripanan taking away P4 in that very short but intense battle. Ketan's not giving up. He's fighting back. This is what you'd love to see. You like drivers battling back and forth to gain positions and climb their way up the ladder.
Yep, a little wheel-to-wheel contact there, but well, none of the drivers lost any time, so we can continue enjoying this battle. Hari is really applying the pressure, but Ketan is managing to keep him behind. Unfortunately, I believe it's not for a long time now. Yeah, as we can see, he's running a bit wide, and once on the straight, Hari is going to get a lovely slipstream.
And brilliant defending from Ketan. He's been holding that car in the right position, just about closing the gap for Hari, not to let him through. And he's gotten a good exit over here, but Hari's gotten a much better one on the outside. Look at that maneuver from Ketan, just sticking to his racing line. Hari taking a completely different approach, sticking on the inside where he was. There's more contact. Hari nearly spinning himself out once again. You can't go for gaps that are closing. That's what he tried to do over there, and he's once again lost a couple of seconds on Ketan. He's gonna have to time his moves a little better if he wants to get past the driver up ahead.
Yup, Hari looked for a gap that wasn't there. Probably thinking that Ketan would run a bit wide, but that didn't happen, and he has lost a bit of time.
I see Ketan going a bit wide over there. Once again, losing a bit of time. Hari taxing the tires in the front a bit too much. Sticking the rear end out as well. That's what's really costing him. It's all the little bits of wheel spin, the little bits of oversteer at the exit of these corners that's costing him time. He's got a much cleaner exit out of this sequence. Once again, going through the last couple of hairpins in this track. These are much tighter than the ones before. So he's going to have to take these a lot slower. Be a little bit more easy on the throttle. You need a feather touch on the throttle pedal to get these cars turned in without spinning it out as he taps Ketan clean around. Ketan holding it, charging back, and there's more wheel banging going into the S's. Brilliant driving by both drivers. A lot of contact, but they're making it stick. Not exactly the cleanest battle I've seen on track, Vishal, but I mean, at least everyone made it through alive over there without spinning out.
Yeah, everyone's still pointing in the same direction with all bits and pieces attached to their car. But yeah, that was a rather untidy battle. I'm sure these drivers can do better, just heat of the moment, and yeah, well, let's see. And meanwhile, if you notice on the leaderboard, Ibrahim has climbed up to P2.
He's climbed up to P2, alright, but he's still got a lot of time to make up. 8 minutes on the clock. Decent amount of time, decent amount of racing still left, still yet to go, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, looking at the battles over here, we've got two drivers, one driver up front, another driver charging behind, Shantanu trying to stick on to Ibrahim's slipstream, two drivers, Hari and Ketan, who've been fighting it out for the past couple of laps, and DK unfortunately had a severe spin. Who is that? That's an orange car up front on track. Is that DK? I think that is DK. Once again stuck there in the little grass patch in the inside of this corner.
Yeah, that seems to be DK facing the wrong way once again. He is also having a race to forget. Started P1, finds himself all the way down in P6.
All the way down in P6 as you see Ibrahim crossing him. He crossed him a bit of the track before this. He's about 3.44 seconds behind the leader right now. Shantanu impressively sticking on to Ibrahim's pace. So I think Shantanu is due to have a double podium finish here, which would be great for his points tally. I think that could potentially get him up into the finale. Same goes for Divya and Ibrahim. Remember, Divya finished P2 in the previous race, so if he finishes P1 or P2 over here, that's going to give him the points he needs to get into the finale. Ibrahim, of course, is looking for a race victory here, looking at the pace he has, but really, you can't really say it's guaranteed right now. He's been involved in a few tussles, a few incidents over the past few races. Unfortunate to see Udit Sen not back on the grid. It could have been another driver up here in front battling it for victory. Not quite sure what happened to him, but it could potentially have been some sort of a network issue.
Well, Saidut, while you were speaking, Hari has had a spin, an off-track moment, and he's back behind K10, back in P5.
Yep, so this battle continues to rage. Two drivers going back and forth. Hari dropping behind K10 by good margin, that too, about 2.5 seconds. So that's going to take him a bit of time to chop back down. Pace-wise, it looks like Hari has the pace to overtake K10, but the consistency is what matters more than anything, and that's what K10 has been doing. He's been holding his ground really well. He just needs to keep it clean. Remember, it's not about being fast, or rather, it's not only about being fast. You need to be fast, but you have to be clean as well. No point chopping off all those little seconds and then losing them in the corner. That's what happens to K10. He goes straight through that corner. He's in the gravel trap. I really don't know what happened there, but it looks like he had a massive lockup into that heavy braking zone.
Yeah, I think he just missed his braking point a bit and then floored the brake pedal, locking up his wheels, going into the gravel trap. Well, that's good news for Hari. He's back into P4. Another battle we need to start watching is the battle for the lead. Ibrahim is just 2.5 seconds away now.
2.5 seconds and rapidly closing. The green car of Divya up front, Ibrahim and the orange car right behind him. You can see that gap closing every single time they go into a braking zone. I think the best way to view this battle would probably be riding on board Divya's rear wing. If you look at the rear end camera, that'll give you a brilliant angle of Ibrahim closing in. And once he gets close enough, it's going to be really exciting to see these two battle it out for P1.
Yep, indeed. It's an interesting battle. I'm really looking forward to it. Both these drivers, I really hope they can keep the car on the track and we get some intense battles.
There you have it, Ibrahim menacingly charging up, trying to close that gap with every single corner. It's getting better entries into the corner, but it seems like he's losing a bit on the exits. As you see, we're right on board with Ibrahim. Brilliant. Now we can see him charging down, trying to hunt down Divya up front. I think by the end of this first sequence of corners, that's when we're really going to see Ibrahim shine. Pretty much throughout the rest of the sequence, it's just flat out. You don't really gain or lose on anyone unless you are within a slipstream attack zone, but it doesn't seem to be the case over here. We're going to have to see what Ibrahim does this lap. He's only got a few laps left. I think about 3 laps left, including this one, to chop down that gap.
Yes, I do, but Ibrahim just seems to be a bit more confident on the brakes, but Divya is getting much better exits by the look of it. Riding on board with Ibrahim, you can see the gap is sort of maintaining itself. It's down to below a second right now, but as he pulls away, it'll go back up to I think 1.1, 1.2 seconds. With 3 minutes to go, that's definitely a gap that can be made.
As these two continue to battle it out, just waiting to bounce. Basically, Ibrahim is just waiting to look for a gap where he can just jump in and take away the race lead. I doubt that battle is gonna be as easy for him.
Well, it won't be easy, that's for sure. Divya doesn't want to lose that position. He doesn't want to lose that position. So he's going to make it as tough as possible as he can.
There we go. We've got the last 2 laps of the race. Both the leaders of the pack rounding off the corner to start the last 2 laps of the race, starting the penultimate lap right now. 2.5 minutes on the clock, and that is rapidly going down. It couldn't go down quicker for Divya, who's now under pressure from Ibrahim. Is there going to be an overtaking maneuver into the Chimini corners, the double right-handers? We need to wait and see. I think Ibrahim is a bit too far back to make it stick this time round, so he's going to have to wait at least either until the exit or until the next heavy braking zone. Remember, there is a long right-hander that's cut off a lot of drivers that's coming up, and this seems to be Ibrahim's favorite overtaking zone. He likes to go on the outside. Does he do it this time? Yes, he does. Goes on the outside, brakes as late as he dares, tries to take the switch back. Remember, this is where there was some contact in the first race. There's more contact again. This time, no one's spinning out. Quite an aggressive move, but it's good to see no one spinning out at the end of that tussle.
Yep, Ibrahim sort of lost the rear end over there, but held it beautifully. He's still maintaining his distance behind Divya, closing up, and I'm sure the battle is just going to continue for the remaining 1.5 minutes.
1.5 minutes, basically about 1.5 laps as well left for this race to end. Divya still holding on, gets a tap from Ibrahim. Second time a driver is involved in a tussle like that. Divya spins out to concede first place as Ibrahim rockets away. I don't know much. I don't know what to say about that maneuver, honestly.
Well, we're gonna have to see that after the race, but unfortunate for Divya, unfortunate for Ibrahim. He has got into P1. And Divya, meanwhile, will come under pressure from Shantanu by the looks of it. Anywho, Ibrahim is moving. He is into P1 and he is building that gap now.
He's up in the front, he's got clean air, and the monster is unleashed. He's got 1 lap to potentially take away the fastest lap of the race. Unfortunately, no points are given for the fastest lap, but wouldn't that be interesting if that were the case? These drivers would be focusing on getting perfect laps, not just battling it out on track. Either way, Divya must be super disappointed with that little kerfuffle that happened there on the racetrack. He would have wanted to have a much cleaner swap of position, but it didn't seem to be the case. He hasn't lost too much to the driver behind, but unfortunately he's lost a good amount of time to Ibrahim up ahead.
Yeah, definitely Ibrahim making the move. Again, being a bit untidy. We are seeing quite an untidy race here, Saidut. I mean, the battle with Hari and Ketan, and now with Divya and Ibrahim.
Yeah, and you see someone running wide in the background. Who knows? I'm not sure who that is. Hopefully no one completely wrecked their car. Maybe it's just the way the track looks from that angle. Ketan holding on to P5. Hari up front. Not really having the best of races. But I think that will be a double 4th place finish for Hari. Not quite sure if that's enough for him to get into the finals. I believe it's probably the top 3 that get through. But I'll have to double check that. We'll anyway show you the leaderboard at the end of this race. We'll show you who's got the most number of points in total. But it's surely gonna be Ibrahim at the top of the table, looking at his inevitable first place finish in this race as well. He's probably going around the final corner right now. Looks like, nope, the gap between Ibrahim and Divya has dropped. Oh, okay. So Ibrahim has finished the race off camera. Ibrahim has completed the race. Divya right behind him, taking away P2. P3 goes to Shantanu, who's had a good, solid, consistent race of his own. Hari is going to be taking away P4 if he keeps it clean, while Ketan and DK will have to settle for the last 2 slots on the grid.
Well, Saidut, an interesting race to say the least. It's really been a bit of an untidy race. They were much more cleaner in race 1, but that's what happens when there's something on the line. You tend to push a bit too much, and mistakes do happen.
Unfortunate sequence of events over there, but these are your results for the second race. Ibrahim taking away 25 points up front, Divya taking 18 points, Shantanu taking 15. That seems to be the same top 3 that we had in the previous race. Hari Kripanand coming in to take P4, Ketan settling for 10 points, DK007 Dhananjay taking away 8 points, DK Dhananjay taking away
gives you a real car, an F1 car feeling. Yeah, obviously there are like 4 more days, so I'm gonna practice more, so I can have the best lap.
My name is Abhijit and my timing is 1:52. This is my first time in simulator where I tried my timing and the experience very amazing. Tomorrow I'll get into 1:50 for sure.
Guys, I'm from ISN. So this was my first time on the simulator, but I've done go-karting before. But yeah, this was like really fun. I had a good experience.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic.
Bro, it was insane, bro.
Best racing simulator.
Very responsive, completely realistic. Highlight reel is going to be much bigger than what we saw at Lime Rock Park.
The Indian drivers as well, trying to get himself through on that.
Super amazing and super thrilling. The game is too good. It gives you a real car, an F1 car feeling. Yeah, obviously there are like 4 more days, so I'm gonna practice more, so I can have the best lap.
My name is Abhijit and my timing is 1:52. This is my first time in simulator where I tried my timing and the experience very amazing. Tomorrow I'll get into 1:50 for sure.
Guys, I'm from ISN. So this was my first time on the simulator, but I've done go-karting before. But yeah, this was like really fun. I had a good experience.
Alright, welcome everybody, welcome back as we dive straight into the action for the final grid in this semi-final qualifying series of races that will determine who takes part in the grand finale tomorrow. We're on grid 4 as they prepare themselves to qualify and get a slot on the grid for their first sprint race that will be coming up very soon.
Well, Saidut, I'm incredibly excited for this one also. We already witnessed 2 incredible races. A big shout out to our event partner IR Esports, multiplex partner Inox, and our communication partner Artsmith for supporting the cause of growing Indian esports.
Certainly, as you watch the cars on track, you'll be able to see our sponsor logos on the track in these boards, and this is all all the partners, everyone involved in making this a big success is definitely going to be happy with the way things are running here. Looking at how these drivers have shown interest in jumping in and putting on lap times, we've got a huge reception. A lot of people showing up to qualify and be involved in this huge. This huge opportunity. Basically, it's a great opportunity for them to be involved in sim racing, to get their feet wet, to kind of get involved in competitive esports online. ESFI, of course, is organizing this. The Esports Federation of India. ESFI has also selected 18 members esports teams for the Asian Games in 2022, which unfortunately got postponed, for Dota, League of Legends, Street Fighter, Hearthstone, and FIFA. So it's the first time esports has been included as a medal sport in Asian Games. The previous Asian Games, of course, being in 2018. Esports was included as a demonstration event, and ESFI got bronze in esports in Hearthstone. So a lot of history, a lot of effort, and a lot of passion has gone into this project. So really hope this is a huge success, and we're really excited to see the grand finale of all the best drivers from the past few races. But before we jump into that, we need to go through the final 2 races for grid number 4 to see who has what it takes to battle it out for a potential opportunity to go to Monaco and represent the country.
Indeed, Saidut, these drivers have already finished their setups. They are well into qualifying, 3 minutes into qualifying with 7 minutes left. They have started putting in lap times. All of them have done their out laps. Let's see who manages to get pole in this session.
So we've got Richie in the lead of the pack right now, the 148.048. Of course, these are all banker laps, just out laps right now. So Richie is, of course, Richard Gyan on this grid, and we've got Ritvik B right behind him, Ritvik Palgi, followed by Kanak Satam, and P2J is Prithujay, and the 5th grid slot right now, the 5th driver on track is Naveen Balaji. So we've only got 5 drivers in this grid. It might not be as jam-packed action-wise at the start, but hopefully we get some good on-track battles.
Yes, Aidut. Qualifying will indeed give us a brief, an intro into what these drivers are capable of. Looks like we already have a good lap time on the board. It's a 1:32 by Kanak. Indeed, the remaining 4 drivers will try and catch him up.
Yep, currently Kanak being a clear 6 seconds away from P2, but I don't think the rest of the pack have put on competitive lap times yet on the leaderboard. Kanak was, of course, one of the first drivers on track, having put up the first flying lap of the session. We'll need to wait and see. Just give it a few more minutes until everyone kind of gets in a rhythm. They don't have a lot of time though, 5.5 minutes before the clock runs out.
Yep, 5.5 minutes, probably enough time to do 2, maybe 3 laps with your qualifying setups. Kanak has done a 1:32. Ritvik seems to be the closest, but yeah, these are all just out laps at the moment. P2J is trying to put in a fastest lap, but he seems to be well off the pace right now.
Seems to be just kind of locking up everywhere, getting a bit squirrely on exits. The car doesn't look as planted as some of the other ones on track right now. You see Richie on your screen right now. He's 15 seconds off pace the previous lap, and that was, of course, his banker lap. This seems to be his first flying lap. If we ride on board with him, you can see how he takes this corner, having potential traffic up in front of him. He's got a driver up in front trying to put a lap time as well. The red car letting him through as he gets a good exit over here. He goes through the final technical sequence of hair hairpins over here, taking a good tight line over there, just hitting the apex perfectly, running over that AstroTurf, making his way through the final sequence of corners. Let's see what he can do, getting a bit unsteady over there on the steering. Looks like he had to counter steer quite a bit at the exit of the S's, riding through turn number 15. Roma gonna get a good exit over here, taking a very tight line, a tight safe line, of course. Not sure if it cost him too much of lap time, but he puts a 1 minute 33.893, a respectable lap time, just about a second and a half, about just under a second and a half off pace. So he's surely gonna start pushing a bit more, getting into the rhythm.
Yeah, that was quite an untidy lap actually. He lost a lot of time with the traffic and the counter steering here, having to correct once again, managing to keep it, well, just as I says that, he goes off track into the gravel.
The slippery Assetto Corsa physics playing its way into the Tatuus FA01. Remember, these cars are modeled to replicate standard Formula 4 spec FIA grade race cars. So, they have similar specifications in terms of downforce, mechanical grip, the raw amount of power and the top speed you can basically squeeze out of these cars. So they're wrestling with not so powerful cars, but they've got a lot of torque for their size, and that's why they seem to be, you see these drivers constantly wrestling the car, trying to correct the steering and their throttle every time they go out of these hairpins. The rear end always wants to step out in these sort of open wheel rear engine cars.
Yep, it's very easy to spin your wheels on the rear, and once you do that, the tire model of Assetto Corsa will overheat your tires and you end up losing even more grip.
See Ritwik having a very good amount of grip, I would say, through those corners, taking it with enough space to spare on the outside. He's just about planting it in the middle of the track. He's not really extending it to its limits, but that car looks planted in this sequence of corners.
Yep, he seems to be taking it a bit too cautiously though. I think he can push a bit more. He seems to be lacking a bit in confidence, but he's still got probably another lap to do, so let's see what he does.
Just slowly building up the momentum. I think he'll have 2 laps left, in fact, if he crosses the line before we hit 1.5 minutes. Surely, actually, might be really close, because he's got quite a few corners left before he can finish the lap. He's got about 40 seconds on the clock if he wants to put 2 laps, but he's surely going to be able to get 1 more qualifying lap in. I'm curious to know what his time will be on this. He's 3.99 seconds off pace right now, but his lap that he has on the leaderboard is well off of that. So I'm guessing this is going to be somewhere around the 1 minute 36 zone. Still not quite as fast as the leader, but he's got 1 more lap to improve.
Yep, 1 minute 45 to go. He just might have 2 laps, Saidut. But the time is running out. It's going to be very tight.
His lap time is about a 1 minute 36, 1 minute 36, around the 1 minute 38 range. So I don't think he's going to have 2 laps. This is going to be his last lap if this is the most he can get out of the race car that he's driving. They've got other drivers, Naveen Balaji and P2J, yet to put faster lap times on the board. Let's see what Naveen Balaji can do this time round.
Yep, Naveen Balaji in the black and white car has probably been struggling a bit. He's just managed to put a banker lap in at a 1 minute 40. He's crossing the line now. Well, the timer hasn't reset. It might be a small glitch, but he does have time to start another flying lap. In fact, he's on his probably what's going to be his final run, and I hope he can really for his sake, put in a good lap time.
Yeah, I think maybe the timer glitched out because he went off track on his previous lap, which means it would have been invalidated, which is probably why it didn't update on the leaderboard. That's just what I'm guessing, but I'm not quite sure what's happening there on screen. We've also got P2J, who's yet to put a lap. I don't know if he's in the pits or if he's on track, but he's another driver that's yet to get into the 1 minute 30s, let alone faster than a 1 minute 33, which only 2 drivers, in fact, have done till now. We've got P1, Kanak, having a 1 minute 32.6, and Richie right behind him, just 2/10 off his pace. So these 2 drivers are very closely, evenly matched. It's going to be interesting to see both of them battling it out for P1.
Yes, either last 5 seconds to go. Everyone is on their final laps, getting their best laps. Probably going to do it at the end. Kanak already in P1. Is he improving on his lap time? Let's watch and find out. He's going through the final few corners. Let's see what he can do.
Wrestling his car through the final sections, that brilliant blue colored cars. Just excellent liveries that you see on these cars. The team from IR Esports, all the livery designers have been actively involved in this, and they just look stunning, right? They just really stand out in the sunset. You've got these excellent little graphics, excellent geometric shapes that reflect the sunlight beautifully around this racetrack. And of course, you've got all the amazing sponsors and partners involved, plastered on the side of the car. The cars running those liveries. Proud to have these organizations involved in what is turning out to be a very exciting competition, Vishal. It's been a blast till now. It's been a really exciting series of races until now.
Oh, indeed, Saidut. It's been extremely interesting, extremely exciting. We are done with qualifying, and let's look. I'm really looking forward to this race as well.
Yeah, just waiting for the final qualifying results to come on screen. But I think we already know Kanak and Richie will be leading the pack into turn number 1. It's just about which driver is going to get the better line. And more importantly, Vishal, which driver is going to keep it more consistent throughout the race.
Yep, we saw it in the last race. To finish, you need to be on track. You need to be consistent. We saw a lot of spins last race. A lot of drivers that we thought were quick couldn't match the expectation, perhaps. But let's see. This looks like a good grid. They don't seem to be making too many mistakes. But yep, time will tell.
Well, the time will definitely tell, but the times on screen tell a lot about the capability of these drivers to get off the line and immediately get up to pace. Definitely pays off. One of the more clean races we saw yesterday, one of the cleaner drivers of the grid, Garvit Agarwal. We saw him running away with victory. Purely based on the pace, purely based on being able to get that car up to speed as quick as possible. We see drivers not quite hitting the 1-minute 31s, but still some really competitive drivers in this batch. So it'll be very interesting to see how they make their way through the pack.
Amazing, it's super thrilling. The game is too good. It gives you a real car, an F1 car feeling. Yeah, obviously there are like 4 more days, so I'm gonna practice more so I can have the best lap.
My name is Abhijit and my timing is 1:52. This is my first time in simulator where I tried my timing and the experience is very amazing. Tomorrow I'll get into 1 down 50 for sure.
Guys, I'm from ISN. So this was my first time on the simulator, but I've done go-karting before. But yeah, this was like really fun. I had a good experience.
Okay, so we're back into action, all set for race number 1 for grid number 4. Everyone's lined up on the track. We're just waiting for the game to set the countdown timer to run it out basically and to get ready for the starting sequence. But these are your leading drivers for the pack. Kanak in the blue color car with Richie in the purple car right behind. Then we've got Ritvik in the pink car for P3, followed by the black car of Naveen Balaji and and the final driver on the grid in that red car in the P5 slot, rounding off the final order. That's P2J at the tail end of the pack, hoping to make something out of his qualifying run, hoping to gain a few positions, hoping for a bit of chaos up front to help his cause. But yeah, these drivers just waiting, settling in, hoping to get good starts.
Yep, Saidut, we have seen in the past few races a chaotic start, and the guys at the back tend to make up a lot of places and tend to use it to their advantage.
Only about 4 slots between him and P1. Not a lot of places, but definitely a lot of points if you look at the tally, that potential points tally. We're waiting for the 6 lights to light up, waiting for them all to go out, and as they go out, everyone gets a good launch. Nobody's got a bad launch over there. Everyone's got a decent launch. The order stands as it is. We've got someone who just joined the grid at the back, an orange car that just jumped on the grid and missed the start. Not sure who that is, but if they get a good start right now, they can surely catch up with this pack. Kanak already conceding P1. Richie trying to go on the outside. Kanak holding the inside line, but Richie's already got the bag well ahead of his rival. He goes wide. Kanak once again on the inside. He has the momentum. Anyone's corner in the next coming corners, it's going to be the hairpin. This is where Ibrahim consistently went on the outside. Let's see what Kanak tries this time. He wants to stick on the inside line, wants to push Richie onto the outside. He holds the inside line. It's a lot tighter, which means he has less grip. He has a tighter radius corner. More amount of G-force acting on that car. The tires don't have enough grip to sustain it. Looks like it didn't, but he did manage to make it through there quite easily. Richard Gyan has missed out on that. He's going to have to start chasing down Kanak if he wants that first place victory.
Yep, an interesting start once again to this race. Battle for P1, the same like we saw in the previous grid. Richie is closing, he will close in, and we have a car that's gone wide over there. That leaves Ritwik open for attack from Naveen Balaji.
As he leaves the door open, it looks like Naveen Balaji is trying to make it on the inside. Very tricky place to make a dive bomb. He goes inside, goes over the sausage curb, bunny hops that entire grass section, and almost loses out now to P2J, who's right there, who's ready to take any of those, any of the remaining parts of that battle, but he locks up big time into that corner, and once again is playing catch up at the tail end of the battle. As you see P2J slowly making his way down, now trying to just latch onto that slipstream. Naveen up front trying to catch up with Ritwik. He took a bit
Naveen
too much
Balaji
curb.
closing up to Ritwik once again. Both of them locking up, all three of them locking up in fact. And yeah, but all three make the corner. All three are continuing with their battle. Naveen Balaji looking for Ritwik to perhaps make another mistake and make up the position.
He's got P2J for company though behind, who's looking very aggressive.
Meanwhile,
on
at the front, we have Richie. Richie is closing up on Kanak. I see this battle developing in the near future. 12 and a half minutes to go, and yeah, it's turning out to be an incredible battle this for the front.
Certainly is. Richie still hot on the tails of Kanak up front. Kanak getting a good exit over there. So is Richie, making their way through this technical sequence once again. We'll wait and see what happens this time by. Everything is working out quite brilliantly for Richie.
Richie
right now.
Unfortunately has lost the car. He went a bit wide coming out of the final turn. He has lost the rear end, but doesn't look like he's lost any position. He will have overheated tires though, will be losing grip. Meanwhile, Kanak sets the fastest lap time.
I think I had a bit of a mic issue over there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I thought loud and clear.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I was talking about the Richie battle, but I don't think you could hear me. So just exited the Discord call, rejoined. I think everything's fine right now. But yeah, Kanak's got a big jump in front. I saw Richie spin out over there as he caught that gravel, and it's just cost him big time. 10 seconds, around 10 seconds is the gap. And looking at the fact that both these drivers had both the same pace. He's going to have to hope that Kanak runs into some sort of a situation later on in this race, because purely based off pace, I don't see that 10-second gap closing by the end of this 10 minutes of racing that's left.
Yep, not a lot of time to separate them in qualifying. Quite a lot of time to separate them on the racetrack thanks to that spin that Richie had. But I'm sure he can close up Kanak. Maybe just take it a bit easy, keep it on track, avoid making mistakes, and this race is in the bag.
It certainly looks to be the case. Ritwik having quite a lonely race in P3 as you see Naveen Balaji slowly dropping off, that gap slowly increasing. Seems to be taking very wide lines. I don't know if there's something wrong with the tires or if he's just not able to hit the apex, but he's going right smack in the middle of the racetrack, not quite hitting the apexes as close as you'd like. P2J on the other hand is definitely hitting those apexes, but also carrying a bit too much speed on the exit as he runs off on the gravel trap. So both these drivers are slowly losing out on that P3 battle. Ritwik must be having a good sigh of relief from that.
Yep, P2J did exactly what Richie did. However, he managed to hold the car, which means he's pointing in the right direction, pointing in to get that P4 of Naveen Balaji.
Yeah, P2J is definitely trying to do what he can to push through. Richie, on the other hand, has thrown away P2 straight into the gravel trap as he was stuck there. He's now in P3 and he's got Naveen Balaji for company. He's carried a lot more speed through that section. He's lost out P3 to Naveen, but he does have the inside line. And we see that Naveen has been sticking to the middle of the track. So if Richie notices that, he can just hit the apex and get back that position. Naveen, of course, going wide over there as we see, going wide on exit. Richie taking back P3, but look at the amount of time he's lost to Ritwik. That's about 8 seconds effective once the timing screen kind of averages out, and then he's got another 16 seconds to Kanak after that. So he's got a lot of ground to make up.
And Naveen went in a bit too hot in that corner, a bit excited I think to make up again pass Richie. Yeah, he's also lost a lot of time.
Yep, and it's just really demoralizing when you spin yourself out and you need to start catching up and chopping down the time, which you have been consistently doing for most of the race. So he's got to again get back in the rhythm. We don't see as big a pace difference between P1 and P2 in this grid compared to the other grids. So it's definitely not going to be a runaway victory for Kanak. He still needs to survive for the next 8 odd minutes of the race. If he can manage to do that, he can get a good 25 points haul at the end of the first sprint. But he's going to have to keep it clean. Remember now, Richie is dropped again back to P4. Now the gap is 40 seconds. So I don't know if those two drivers had some sort of contact off screen, but he's about a mile away now from the front of the pack.
Yeah, I just think Richie's overheated his tires. We did see him struggling, so it's just probably a thing where he's heated up his tires. He needs to take it a bit easy and cool his tires down. But here we see him, we are riding on board with him. He is closing on Naveen Balaji.
He's closing quite quickly on Naveen Balaji, who seems to be weaving on the straights for some reason. I don't think the slipstream has that much of an effect to be able to push off by just weaving like that. So he's cost himself a bit of time. He doesn't really need to worry as Richie overcooks his tires, carrying too much speed on the inside of that corner. He concedes P4 as well, and he now finds himself in plumb last.
Yeah, Richie is just having a race to forget. He has got the pace. He knows that he's as fast, if not faster than Kanak at the front. He just needs to be a bit more consistent, Saidut. This is what we have seen over the course of 2 days, over the course of the last 4 grids. If you're consistent, you win the race.
If he maintains the pace which we've seen before, and obviously the consistency as you've mentioned, he can, I think he can definitely overtake P2J and Naveen Balaji. But after that, I think that gap is a bit too big because Ritwik is only about a half to probably 1 second off pace, and in qualifying with Kanak almost at the same pace as Richie. So looking at the gap, like 30 seconds, you need a lot more laps than what you have in the bag right now to be able to make up those precious seconds. So Richie's going to have to settle for P3, but he has to keep it clean. He's dropped back to about 20 seconds behind P2J. So I think that's another spin for Richie.
And Kanak sort of going wide there, but he manages to keep it on track. So Yeah, he's still extending that gap, Saidut. It's up to 25.6 seconds right now.
And it seems to be increasing slowly. The gap between Ritvik and Naveen staying at around 10 seconds. I believe that gap was around 6 to 8 seconds a couple of laps before. So Ritvik slowly pulling away from the pack as well, but not quite fast enough to catch up with Kanak, who's been having a solid race till now. He's running way out in front, and it doesn't look like anything is going to phase him at this point.
Yep, he can really take it easy. He's got a 30-second gap. He can literally focus on his own race, manage his tires, manage his race pace. He's controlling the race, and he can dictate what he needs to do.
Yeah, I don't really think he has to dictate anything in this situation, because he's just so far out ahead. He just has to keep it clean at this point. But I get what you're saying. He has a commanding lead right now, and I don't think it's gonna go any other way unless he spins out maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yep. Up to 40 seconds now, Ritvik is having kind of a lonely race in P2. P2J in P4 got a bit lucky with Richie spinning out. He has moved into P4. But yeah, you just need to be consistent and hope that the other drivers will make a mistake.
Yeah, it's turning out to be quite a lonely race right now. Everyone in their own zone, a good 10 seconds away from each other at the least. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those boring parts of the race where nothing really much is happening. You just have to wait and see if someone decides to overcook their tires, if someone is not quite happy with the position they're in right now. I can see a driver coming up from behind. P2J is charging and trying to catch up with Naveen Balaji. Is this a battle that we'll see start to brew perhaps in the next 1 or 2 minutes of the race? It will be interesting if we have a good battle on our hands for the final podium position, because I don't see any of the other gaps anywhere near close enough to be forming into some sort of a battle with just about 2 or 3 laps of the race left.
Yep, it does seem like P3, P4 is the battle to look out for. Once again, we ride on board with Kanak, our race leader, who has a massive gap. I mean, this is his race to lose.
See, a nice 360-degree view. It gives you a better view of these brilliant liveries, better idea, better glimpse of the details on these liveries, details on these cars. That just looks splendid. Just reflects so brilliantly. You've got all the sponsors there. The car looks good. The driver in the car looks quite cool, calm and composed. On the flip side, at the tail end of the field, Richie's just trying to charge his way back. That's gone up to 100 seconds. Looks like he's found himself spinning a couple more times. It's just gone all wrong for Richie, who had a lot of potential. He had good pace at the start of this race, but he just pushed the car a bit too much. The positive side of all of this is that he will start at the front end of the grid. If he finishes in this position, then he just has to keep it clean, and he can potentially take away 25 points at the end of the next sprint.
Indeed, Saidut. I think that is probably what he's looking for. If I were him, I would be experimenting as much as I can for the remaining 2.5 minutes. Get myself all prepped up for the last race that we are going to have today. It's going to be reverse grid. He's going to be on pole, and he does have the pace. So maybe clean air is what he requires, clears his mind, and well, let's see what happens.
Ritvik just enjoying a nice second place right now in this race. Just been cruising along. It's about 40 seconds now to Kanak. And the gap behind has still stayed at around 10 seconds. So I don't think Ritvik or Naveen have been pushing the car too much. As I say that, Naveen clips the apex, spins the car around a little too quickly, manages to catch it, but he's lost a bit more time there. So he's going a bit too deep into that corner. He's surely just overheated his tires, and he doesn't have quite as much grip as he'd like to make it through the final closing stages of this race.
Yeah, he probably would have lost a bit of grip, but the good thing is he hasn't got a lot of time left to hang on to that position. He just needs to keep it clean right now.
P2J is certainly keeping it clean, but he's not going fast enough to catch Naveen. So he's going to have to settle for P4. He's got a good 1, maybe even 2 laps of racing left. I believe it's 2 more laps of racing after including this. So he's going to just have to hang on to that and take away a P2 grid start for the next sprint race. The final race of this evening, by the way, the final race in the semi-final series, this qualifier series, before we have the final grid, which you'll know about shortly when you follow us on social media. You'll get to know the final starters for the grand finale, which will be streamed tomorrow evening.
Yep, all these drivers battling for that 17 positions of the online slots, a total of 20 cars that will be racing tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that. But we are not done for this evening. With 30 seconds to go, Kanak has a huge lead.
Indeed, it's a huge lead, and he's surely on the final lap of the race right now. He's just going through about the second sector, entering the second sector of the racetrack. So this is definitely the last lap for Kanak. He just has to take it easy, take a small break, and just prepare himself for grid number 2, where he'll have to charge through the pack. Pushes it a bit too much on the final lap. Has he completely overcooked those tires? He does a quick 360 back on track, but he's starting to lose time to Ritwik, who's right behind, and he's nowhere near done with the lap. He still has that extremely technical section to go through. You can see him going wide everywhere. He is completely heated. He's completely overheated those tires. Vishal, is this going to be a lead swap? What do you think?
I don't know. I think he's going to maintain P1. The lap time is coming down, so probably he has overcooked his tires. But he will be so grateful that he had that big buffer behind him, because he still has a 25-second gap to P2 Ritwik.
Yeah, you see someone else spin the same way he did a couple of corners behind. That is Richie once again spinning himself out. He's been lapped right now, and he spun himself out at the end. So he's still getting up to grips with the car. But he wouldn't be too worried knowing that he's starting P1, while the driver up ahead on track takes away victory here for the first sprint of this grid. He's going to be starting at the back. The driver behind Richie is going to be starting at the front of the pack. We see P2 on track. Ritwik will be coming over to take away second place. He's going to be starting in the penultimate grid slot for the next race. Naveen Balaji surely set to take P3, with P2J firmly planted in P4. This, of course, on screen is the result from the first grid. I think that's the second race of the first grid. We're just going to wait for everyone in this grid to finish off the first race to see the final results.
Yep, Kanak thanking his lucky stars there that he didn't lose any of the positions. A brilliant victory, almost clean. Held a commanding position up until the last lap, where he did make a minor mistake, but thanks to the big buffer he had, he hasn't lost a place.
No places lost, but a lot of places yet to be made in the second race, which will be coming up shortly after a few minutes, just so that the game can reset. Basically, the sim has to reset the server time and restart the countdown for the next race. Just a couple of minutes when we'll wait, and it's a good time for the drivers to also wait and just refocus their energy onto the second race.
Yep, a good time for everyone to clear their heads, prepare themselves. It's going to be a reverse grid, which means the cars that we saw, like Kanak, who are extremely fast, are going to be starting at the back. Richie, meanwhile, is going to be extremely excited, I'm sure, because he's starting on pole.
Of course, with nobody else on the grid, just 5 people, P5 gets 10 points, P1, of course, getting 25 points. So we're going to be either in the top 3 or the top 4 in your grid slot to be able to go on to the finale. So Richard's still got a good chance. He's got to get up to P1 and hope that Kanak and Ritwik don't have such easy-going races. And there's a good chance for Richard to also make his way into the finale. P2J and Naveen Balaji were a good way behind in the grid, so they're going to have to work together perhaps to catch up with the front pack. All this is yet to come in the second sprint, but right after the short break.
Could you not?
Okay, we're back on the grid. The final race in the series, sprint number 2 for grid number 4. All these drivers are yet to all set to launch off in this final race. Richard Gyan, there you go. That was the driver who finished at the end of the field the previous race. All set to take pole position and launch off the grid cleanly for his sake. P2J taking P2 here, having finished P4 in the previous race. Naveen Balaji finishing P3, starting P3 in this reverse grid of 5 cars. Then you've got Ritvik in P4, and the winner of the previous race, Kanak, taking P5, having to start at the tail end of this reverse grid.
Yup, Kanak will have to keep it extremely clean, extremely consistent. He's got the pace to make it another victory. Yep, let's see what he's capable of.
Just getting one final look at these cars before they launch off from the grid and reach hundreds of kilometers per hour on the track. Just waiting for that starting sequence to begin. I'm sure the drivers are rearing to get going. It's all about the clean starts around here. It's all about not overcooking your tires. Let's see if Richie can keep it clean this time round. If he can pull away from the pack, we know he has the pace. He just has to keep that car clean and within the bounds of the track.
Yep, Richie had a bad race, but Saidut, the lights are coming on.
There we go. We've got the starting sequence ready. 6 grayed out lights as they switch on one at a time, waiting for all 6 lights to illuminate as they go off. Everyone launches away. Richard gets a brilliant start. I can't say the same for Kanak and the rest of the crew over there. Everyone going 4 wide through turn number 1. That's already quite risky. Naveen Balaji missing out a bit in that start. Kanak making his way through. That's the red car of P2J involved in a little crash with the pink car way at the back. Richard Gyan having a brilliant start up front.
Yep, Richard having a good start. Naveen seems to have locked up, gone wide. Our Richie's off again. Saidul
went a bit too fast at the exit of that corner, understeered clean into the gravel, but he managed to keep it moving, and look who's made it out in front. It's Kanak who's taken the lead of the race with only like 4 or 5 corners done in the beginning of the race. So he's already starting to pull away. Richard can see P1 running away. He has to keep it clean if he wants to take race victory over here, if he wants to make up for some of the points he lost in the previous race. You see the red car of P2J also having a good start. He's in P3, followed by Ritvik in that pink car. So Ritvik was also involved in a bit of a on-track collision at the start of the race. He's down in P5, and Naveen Balaji's found himself way down in P5 after, I believe, running wide into out of turn number 5.
Yeah, Naveen had a slight moment there. I think braked a bit too late, locked up his wheels, and was forced off track. He seems to be still struggling, probably has overheated his tires. That's unfortunate because this was just the first lap. He's got 13 more minutes with these tires.
Is going to have to just get them back in the right window, let physics do its job, let basically the ambient air just slowly cool off those tires and not really push it too much through some of these high speed corners where you need to push it. So it's a little difficult to maintain good speed, maintain that pace and still get your tires cooled down enough. He's going to have to nurse that car around a little bit. P2J doing all sorts of little maneuvers through that sequence of corners, really pushing it. He wants to keep P3. He wants to run away from Ritvik, who's looking quite menacing in the background. Richie's at least managed to keep it clean after that, after the little bit of a moment that he had here at this particular corner last lap. He's only 1.2 seconds away from the leader, so he's got a chance of still winning this. You can see Ritvik chasing down P2J and Naveen Balaji miles behind the pack. He's about 12, maybe 15 seconds at this point behind the pack. So that's a huge delta down to P5.
Yeah, Naveen lost out big time on that opening lap, but look who's not lost out, Ritvik.
Looks like the one who's lost out there is P2J. He got a bit of a contact, but no, it's Ritvik that gets spun around after that. That was a little bit of a few exchange of collisions over there between those two cars. Terribly unfortunate for Ritvik, who's still trying to get it back in the right direction. You see Naveen going through into P4 over there. Everything's gone wrong for Ritvik. Charged up into P3 and lost it after holding it for just about a fraction of a second.
Yep, seemed like Ritvik had the move done, but P2J was still there. His front wing probably touching the rear wheel of Ritvik, and well, that's a recipe for disaster.
Certainly is. Richie, however, up front is holding on to that position. I believe he just got the fastest lap of the race as well. So he's really charging now. He's trying to keep it clean. A little bit of oversteering over there. I dare say, I think his setup is just a bit oversteer. He's not got enough grip on the rear end. Maybe he's trimmed the rear wing down a bit more. It's added a lot of front wing because we see him consistently spinning everywhere. It's not understeer. It just seems to be the rear end that keeps trying to snap away from him.
Yep, a bit unsettled car, but through this turn, I think the turns that have camber, it is helping him. But once we go to turns that have off camber, he's having to correct the car a bit. The rear end is definitely loose.
Yeah, it's another sign of him running quite a stiff car because he's able to ride the camber of the track without really overdoing the camber gain on the tires. If he were running a much softer car that can roll more, it's definitely going to cause a bit more strain on the tires. Not because they're loaded more, but just because they're oriented slightly differently as opposed to what they'd like on a cambered surface. He's making his way through this section right now. He's still sticking on, not losing too much time. So he's definitely holding on to P2, but I'm quite sure he wants victory in this race.
Indeed, he isn't gaining, but he isn't losing either. So that's a good sign. He just needs to keep it clean. We saw him, unfortunately, having a lot of incidents in race 1. Race 2 seems to be going better for now. He is holding on to Kanak, and well, Kanak is trying to pull away, but Richie is not letting him.
Yeah, these two are locked into contention over here, trying to get away from the rest of the pack. More importantly, trying to get away from each other. One trying to close down the gap, one trying to increase it consistently. Ritvik, way back at the tail end of the field, has still not managed to make his way past Naveen Balaji. He's still a good 2 to 3 seconds behind Naveen, who you can see up the road over there, the little black and white car, just making his way through the first couple of corners. Meanwhile, there's a battle up here in the front, of course. So it looks like P2J is the only one who's having quite a lonely race right now.
Yep, but I don't think he's going to be complaining. He's in the final podium spot. A podium would do well for his chances of making the grand finale, which is tomorrow.
Yep, did he finish? Yeah, he finished at the tail end of the field the previous race, so he'll be happy with P3 for sure. I believe Naveen Balaji started P3, which means he finished P3. Now he's down to P4. He'll surely want to get another podium for the second race to more or less increase or improve his chance of getting into the finale. Ritvik is definitely going to want to get some points on the board, having lost out in that little battle. There's a bit of wheel banging over there, and once he got up ahead, it looks like the front left tire of P2J hooked onto the back of Ritvik's car on the rear right tire of Ritvik's car, thereby just effectively spinning him outwards onto the grass. Very unfortunate incident, but he's trying to claw his way back up. You see that delta, he's very close to Ritwik right now if you look at the delta.
Indeed, Ritwik. And we have another spin from Richie. Richie has lost it, but he's got, I think, a sufficient buffer with P2J. And meanwhile, Ritwik has made up a position.
It's made up a position and he's pulled away. Naveen Balaji is dropping behind. Looks like Naveen ran into a bit of trouble there as well. Richie's got a good buffer, but I think he's given away a good buffer to Kanak as well. A lot of breathing room for the previous race winner, now continuing to lead the pack. You know what, Vishal? I think every time the person who won the first sprint race went on to win the second sprint race as well in every single race we've had till now, if I'm not mistaken. So just shows the pace that some of these drivers have.
Yep. You are not mistaken. Every single driver that has won race 1 has won race 2 in all the 4 batches. So it's going to be really interesting tomorrow. I can't wait for it. Naveen Balaji is still going off track. Well, I can't wait for the race tomorrow, but we are still having some good action going on. Another 7.5 minutes to go.
With 7.5 minutes to go, the battle for P3 is brewing up once again. P2J versus Ritwik. This is what I'm looking forward to seeing. As you see a massive spin up front. Was that P2J who spun a bit? No, it's just the tire lockup graphics over there. But yeah, this battle is definitely going to build up in another few corners time. But yeah, we've got a lot of drivers. We've got Davlish, Garvit, Ibrahim and now Kanak who've all been leading the pack in their individual grid slots, and then also the P2 drivers who've also been charging up, trying to make up some positions. Some tight, action-packed, very competitive racing is due to be broadcasted tomorrow. But before that, we need to get past this race, which I hope just keeps going on forever, because this race is turning out to be extremely exciting. Ritwik once again trying to make a move on P2J. P2J takes a very interesting line over there, very strange line, getting onto the pit wall. He somehow makes it stick. He somehow carry that momentum through.
Yeah, he's been taking that line all evening, and Ritwik is closing. You can see him in the slipstream, pulling out wide, trying to make the move. Will he go to the inside? Will P2J cover him? And hopefully this time it doesn't end in disaster. Oh, and just as I say that,
both drivers go a bit too deep over there. Ritwik, the one that wins that particular battle. P2J back now into P4, and he started losing a bit of time, but he's got the slipstream here. P2J is surely going to try to fight back and regain that position. He's lost it quite a bit. And if you see the inputs from P2J, it almost looks like he's probably using a controller. Just by looking at the steering inputs and how aggressive and harmonic those inputs are. They just continuously it's very twitchy steering wheel over there. So I think he's either on controller or keyboard, looks like.
well, if he's on the controller, he's doing an incredible job of keeping up. What you are saying is true. The inputs do look a bit twitchy, sort of like a controller, but if that's the case, he's doing a really good job.
Really well done by him. I mean, in a controller it's more difficult to tell when you're going to spin out, and we haven't seen P2J do that a lot right now. He's just been taking it one corner at a time, and it seems to be paying off quite well. He's not in the podium spots, but he is in a respectable P4, and he's not too far off from the podium right now, just making his way through the track. It's been an action-packed race. There's only 4.5 minutes left on the clock, so that time is completely flown by over the past few laps. Kanak still way out in front. Richie dropping to about 26 seconds now, and then a 30-second gap between him and P3.
Doesn't seem to be in this race at all, but more interesting things have happened in e-racing, Saidul.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every race is unique in its own way. If you look at them separately, they all have their own merits, their own high points. This race particularly has had some really good action, a lot of collisions, but I think everyone's just having fun out there right now. It's the last 4 minutes, just about 2 or 3 laps left that Kanak has to hold on to get a victory number 2 for his grid slot. Richie, a good 33 seconds now behind. The gap is slowly increasing. did he run into more trouble because the gap in front has increased, the gap behind has slowly decreased? As I say that, the driver up front, Kanak, takes a bit too much out of that car, spins it around. He did this at the closing stages of the previous race. Now he's got overheated tires, and Richard Yan charging and trying to close that gap.
Well, he's consistent between races, as it turns out. He did the same thing last time. That gap is going to come down. But weirdly, Saidut, if you notice, it's
Start increasing.
increasing.
Yeah, I think Richie's also spun himself out somewhere up there. So much so that he's made his way through a pit stop. I don't know why he did that. He went through the pits. Was that to either fix up to change his tires or to serve a penalty? I'm not quite sure. Either way, he's now in the clutches of Ritwik, who's just a couple of seconds behind him. One more unfortunate incident on track, and he can potentially concede P2 to the driver right behind. Ritwik battling his way. He made his way past P2J, pulled away from that little battle, and now he's up to potentially taking P2 in this race.
Yep, Richie is going to be feeling the pressure. Less than a second between them. Ritwik, Richie, they are going to be locked into battle. Probably in another half a lap, Ritwik should be able to catch Richie.
Anything can happen. 2 minutes on the clock. The last 2 laps of this race, Kanak out in front, just basically enjoying himself out there, having a second victory, more or less in the bag if he keeps it clean. This is the battle which we definitely want to look at. It's Ritwik versus Richie up front. P2J enjoying himself down in P4. Had a good set of battles this race. He must have had a good amount of fun. Naveen Balaji way down in 5th place, having spun a couple of times at the start of the race. It's been action-packed for sure. Just got a bit more left, and it could potentially be a few more battles building up in the closing stages.
Yep, a few more battles. Naveen Balaji. Kanak, once again, we see him in the front, almost a minute now, his lead. If he had not spun, he would definitely be up into that 1 minute. And Richie trying his best to close, but even he seems to be having a bit of trouble getting this car onto grips with this track.
Certainly has had quite an adventure on this track. So if he finishes P2, I believe that's another 18 points for him, which means his points total will be 28. Now, it depends on where that puts him relative to the rest of the pack. So Naveen Balaji finished P3, is now down in P5. So Richie would definitely have an effective points total ahead of him. Definitely in front of P2J as well. So I think he would be in the top 3 of this pack if my calculations are correct. But P2J can't be written off just yet. He has to keep. I mean, he's quite far off from Ritwik, but if he just maintains pace, if Ritwik makes a mistake, P2J can take a podium spot. The same goes for Naveen. Anything can happen the closing stages of this race.
Anything can happen, and let's not discount the stewards. I mean, they could have a say in this race. It's been a bit untidy.
It certainly has some collisions which looked questionable, especially in that P3, P2 battle, which we saw in around the second, I believe the first or second lap of this race between Ritwik and P2. That was quite an interesting incident, to say the least. Ritwik either way has made his way back into P3, so effectively no real position swaps over there. So maybe that could just be passed as a racing incident. We've got to wait and see as Ritwik decides to maybe hit the wall one last time around that corner, but doesn't seem to have any damage from that.
Yep, no damage, and Kanak definitely on his final lap for all these drivers, making his way through the final few corners as it looks to me, Saidut.
Yeah, he's trying to just make his way through. I believe that's turn number 7. He's got to go around this left-hander and then make his way through another sequence of corners. If I'm not mistaken, no, those are the final few hairpins. You're right, the final sectors make his way through the S's. So he's just got the Roma corner, turn number 15 left before he sees the checkered flag. It's been quite a textbook race, a clean performance by Kanak. Did what he had to do at the start of the race. He had one spin during this race, but apart from that, he did nothing else wrong. He goes on to take the second victory of this evening for his grid slot. So he's got a double race win. Every single one of these drivers have had double race wins. The winners of all 4 grids. Richie's still planted in P2, wrestling that car around, trying to make his way past the sequence. If he just gets his way through the next couple of corners, he will have second place in the bag, which gives him 28 points at the end of today's couple of races for his particular grid. Ritwik back in P3, holding on to P3, surely going to be keeping P3, so he'll finish off with a 15-point haul in this race. P2J down in P4, and Naveen Balaji wrapping off the final spot in this grid.
Yep, Richie, I'm sure will be happy with this result as we see Ritwik going off track for one final time as he crosses the line to finish a brilliant P3. Well driven from him. It was a stunning drive. Let's see what the stewards have to say about that incident, but it's probably going to be just a racing incident. P2J coming up, rounding the final turn. He's going to finish in 4th. He also drove a rather brilliant race.
Yeah, he should be happy with P4. He had more or less a clean race, apart from that one little collision which he had with Ritwik way in the beginning of this race. Naveen Balaji is your final finisher, wraps up the final race for this series of mini sprint races to decide who it is that will be taking part, who the drivers are that will be taking part in the grand finale, which will be streamed tomorrow.
Yes, I can't wait for that. Can't wait to get back here with you. But let's just go through our finishing order once again.
Yeah, we just got to wait for the finishing order graphic to come on screen. I believe you can see it right now. So Kanak has gotten 25 points from this race. We get Richie in second place, having got a good 18 points haul at the end of this race. Ritwik coming into P3, taking up the final podium spot with 15 points. P2J Prithij taking 12 points at the end of this race, with Naveen Balaji taking a good 10 points, giving his total, pushing his total up to 25 points at the end of today's races. So on that note, that's been quite an exciting sequence of races. We had a good amount of battles, especially in today's grids compared to yesterday. Yesterday was quite interesting, especially grid number 1. With some last lap battles and switches for the podium spots. It's been an exciting couple of races. What do you feel, Vishal? What are you looking forward to for the finale?
Oh, it's been a fantastic couple of days. We've seen some really good action, wheel to wheel, and the best of these drivers are headed for the finals tomorrow. I can't wait for it. I'm sure you're feeling the same.
100%. And viewers, we urge you to follow the social media pages of all the partners and the organizers involved in this series. If you follow those pages, you will get details of tomorrow's stream and when it will start, and also details of who it is that will be taking part in that 17 slot race or series of races, depending on the sort of event lined up for tomorrow. You'll get more details on that as you follow the pages. But on that note, that's the end of today's stream. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of these races. And we look forward to catching up with you all tomorrow. Have a great evening, and we'll see you all then.